This episode of Archispeak is brought to you by Arcat. What's the one thing we all do in our practice? Search the internet for content, right? Well, we wanted to let you know about Arcat.com. Arcat is an online resource devoted to bringing content to the building professional. They have huge libraries you can access, and they don't hit you up for subscriptions. There are no fees, and they won't make you register to download content. We've all been there. You finally find the right file, and you get blocked with a registration pop-up, and you think, thanks for wasting my time, I'll find it somewhere else. Arcat's BIM library is really second to none and available in just about any format you need. In fact, their entire BIM library is formatted to the last 5 versions of Revit. Their CAD detail library has thousands of CAD details, and if you need specs, the Arcat library is the most consistent library you'll find. Every single spec is written in the CSI 3-part format. There's so much more on their site, including catalogs, videos, and a spec wizard. Go to arcat.com or download their app to check it out. It's a great free resource, and you don't have to register to use. Check it out today at arcat.com, arcat.com, and don't forget to provide feedback on their site. There's a button on the right-hand side of every page. Have a suggestion to make Arcat better? Click the feedback button and let them know, and tell them that Archispeak sent you. Thanks, Arcat, for sponsoring this episode of Archispeak. I mean, that's kind of like another good kind of metaphorical example is that here's a bunch of creative people who are like drawing all of their inspiration. Almost everything that they talk about is something that they see, something they experience. So it's pure inspiration, kind of assembled and repackaged and put back out.
Yeah.
For everybody else's enjoyment, and it's just and it's I mean it's the same thing that we were talking about, Neil, that you were talking about you're drawing all of this inspiration. It's just the design effort is the repackaging.
Yeah,
and I mean, just people don't seem to, you said it best, Evan. It's like people aren't getting it. People are trying to look for the shortcuts. People are trying to just say, here it is. This is me. But you're like, wait, that's not you, because I just saw Evan post that exact same building just in California, and you're trying to pass it off in Maryland or whatever.
Right. I think it's easy to hide behind that stuff too, because there is so much out there. I mean, what are the chances someone else is going to see that and call you out on it? I mean, it's definitely an easy thing to hide behind.
Yeah, or it's just like, well, all I really did was I just drew inspiration. You can clearly see that my building is a different shape than Evan's building, so it's okay. I just drew inspiration. Like, but there's it, and I guess it is such a fine line. It really is such a fine line between inspiration and copying.
Yep.
And everybody, the old adage of, well, copying is the most flattering form of inspiration, or whatever.
Yes.
Whatever the
Something
adage
like
is that I'm trying to like stumble out of my face. But it really is just it's somewhat frustrating to kind of, I guess the frustration lies in the thinking that people are better than just regurgitating stuff, or professionals should be better than just finding the easy way out.
Yep. I think that's the difference actually between art and mastery, I guess, is one way to say it. There's you can just copy paste, or you can actually do the work. Welcome to Archispeak, a fortnightly podcast about all things architecture. My name is Evan Troxel, and I'm one of your hosts along with Neil Pan and Cormac Phelan. Have you ever wondered what it's like to work in the profession of architecture? Have you ever worked with an architect? Have you ever wanted to be an architect? Maybe you're in school and don't know what you're getting yourself into, or perhaps you know exactly what it's like because you've been working in the profession for a long time, and you know that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Or maybe, just maybe, you're planning on changing the world. Join us as we have a casual conversation about our passion, architecture. It's time for some Archispeak.
Welcome to episode 116 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan. So today we wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for a little while, and it's, bear with me guys here, so I try to figure out how to best explain this, but it's kind of something that's been annoying me about designing by, I was calling it designing by Google, where it's not necessarily where you go to Google and you start drawing inspiration about some projects that you're working on and stuff like that, but you're literally going to Google and saying, ooh, I like that. Let me see if I can fit it to what I'm working on. Or, ooh, I like that. Let me see what I can do to fit it to what I'm working on. And
window shopping.
Yeah, and it seems like it's, we're taking the work out of designing and fitting something to a space, to a place, by just looking at, let's make the prettiest picture possible because that's what the client's expecting. So I really like that, and I'm going to give them that, but just on their site, kind of wrapped around the shape that I've created in my massing model. And it just really starts to pull away, or not distill, but it starts to like drain the building of any kind of like sense of place. Do you understand where I'm going with this?
Totally.
Yeah, I see doing that. I think what I see in that is that we're thinking we're looking for inspiration, but we're basically trying to, I wouldn't say necessarily copy, but I think that maybe one of the reasons this might be happening, Cormac, is that of the pressure of deadlines and timing on projects are just rapidly increasing so much, and they have been. I mean, they always have been, right? That you don't have the time or maybe even the budget to design something new, right? We're always referring back to, okay, well, how did we detail this before? How did we do this before? Because it's safe, it's been done before. So I don't know, maybe that's a part of it. I'm just guessing.
It can be, and and it goes back to like when we were talking about sameness, and I guess it's just kind of a further kind of irking.
It's still bothering you, yeah.
It's still bothering me because I will say that I kind of walked upon it in our office not too long ago, where people were working on a project and they really were. I don't mind so much inspiration. We all do it. We all look for inspiration. We look for it in our travels. We look for it in magazines and things like that. But that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm really talking about just the outright copying, Neil. I mean, it really, that's the thing that, and you may have touched on something. It's like, well, we've got this unrealistic deadline. We're really trying to push something out that we can talk to the client about. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's just, this is the primer for us to have a conversation with the client, and I'm going to give him a picture of something that maybe he's seen or we've seen, kind of thing. Exactly what exactly the magazine clipping that he showed me, and let's go with it and let's talk. But the problem is that doesn't really show our prowess as designers and architects, and it shows our prowess of, well, we can cut and paste, and I don't think that's what we are.
There's definitely all of that going on, and this has been happening forever. I mean, as long as other projects have been around to refer to, we've been referring to them. And back when I was interning, I saw it, and it was happening with magazines, and now with the proliferation of beautiful photography of lots of projects that are posted daily online, and people have these phones in their pockets, and you can pull up Pinterest, or you can go on your computer and pull up ArcDaily or whatever, and just start scrolling through the kind of disposable media that we've turned sharing of imagery into. You just keep scrolling until you see something that piques your interest, and I think Neil's right. Like you don't have time to, and I'm totally generalizing here. So, but yeah, you are kind of
that's what we're throwing stuff
do. Throwing stuff into your clipboard, and then you're going to pull it back out later, and most likely modify it and make parts of it your own. But I think that as far as big ideas go, I totally see what you're talking about, Cormac. And I think that the loss of people designing with a story in mind or a big idea in mind, or anything more than extruding a plan vertically is happening less and less.
Yeah, and that's really where I was going, because I started getting this mental image in my mind of buildings as a collage. Well, of course they are. And we have this tool of ideas and visions that we've seen in other projects, and whether it be ours or somebody else's, that we keep this mental Rolodex of things that we like, and we always draw on those. We always pull on that, and that's not really the issue there. I mean, because that's what design is taking the best of what you see out there and trying to make it better. But when you take what you see out there and you just blatantly copy it, that's really the kind of the crux of the issue here.
Yeah, I hear you for sure, and we see it all the time. And
I guess the thing about it is when I saw it, I had a little bit of a PTSD from previous firm that I worked for, where this designer I knew was getting all sorts of accolades and things like that about, wow, that's some really inventive thinking and stuff like that. And all I could think of is, yeah, it was really inventive when the guy in the magazine did it first. And all he did was the exact same thing. Literally the exact same thing. And he's getting a pat on the back and a raise and things like that for his ability to design as a cutting edge designer, when there was nothing cutting edge about it. It was
but we all know that
ripoff.
We all know that design is not how it looks, right? That is a component of design, and so if you're hearing comments like it looks inventive or that really looks great, that is super shallow to me. I mean, this is architecture, and it has to work. And that's really the difference, I think, between what we do and just having an image of a building, right? There's a big difference between living in a building and seeing a building. And so I think that's one of the big things we learn when we're in school. And you can't design a building from a perspective or from an elevation, right? It's all these things that work together. And so you do have a plan, and you do have an elevation, and you do have a section, and all these things have to come together, and they don't always. They sometimes are telling us a lie, right? They're not all figured out. And you can't just design a form and then cram all the program inside. We all know that rarely works. And then the other way, which I mentioned earlier, isn't true either. You can't simply extrude a floor plan, although many people do, and call it architecture, right? You still have to weave all this stuff together. And so if you hear a comment about inventive thinking and just by looking at a building, I seriously can't trust that. Not at all.
So you're saying that designing in SketchUp is a fallacy?
I think that's a whole other topic, but it does fit. But I think that.
But I mean, yeah.
No, I don't. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you're designing based on the images it's producing rather than how it actually works.
Well, yeah.
And when there is other points of view that come into that story, I mean, things change all the time. It's a constantly evolving moving target, this thing that we call a building or architecture, whatever we're working on, whether it's a campus or a building or a maintenance shack. It doesn't matter what it is. It's constantly evolving because you do something over here and it trickles through the rest of the project and modifies it. So
you had to go to the maintenance shack, didn't you?
I did. Red tile roof. Yeah. So yeah, it's the thing that I guess I'm getting at when you say design by SketchUp is that a lot of times our buildings are a product of the tool that we use.
Right.
Which is also something that I hate seeing when, just like you hate seeing you see an image on someone's computer screen that they've Googled and then you see it in an image that they produce. I mean, it's copy paste.
Right.
in that way. But when you're designing, I think a lot of times, because there are certain tools that are so prolific within the industry, that we see lots of things that those tools do really well.
Well, let me take it a step further, both on the Google, designed by Google, and maybe it leads into, designed by SketchUp, but really with the design by
Which
Google,
at one time was both the same company.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
true.
That's true. I remember probably one of my favorite professors in school who really kind of taught us how to design both the interior and exterior as one seamless, like, gesture. So, and the thing that I've been looking at in just not the project that I saw happening in our office, but really kind of I've seen this happen over and over and over again, is that when you're cutting and pasting onto the facade of this massing model or whatever that you've done, and then you try to retrofit a plan into this expectation that your clients have. Well, what that does is that kind of really it really destroys what the essence of a good plan is going to be, because all you're trying to do is jam something in to make it fit the pretty box.
Well, that's how you get oddly shaped rooms that are triangles and
yeah. Hey, let's put a 45 here.
Yeah. That don't work for systems furniture.
Yeah, or something simple as hey, this egress path here that you try to that is necessary by code, that you try to jam in here, but because you didn't have the space, because you don't want to give up this idea of whatever it is that you cut and pasted on there, it now becomes this really it becomes this unworkable solution.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just kind of keep pushing it, and then other things start to be affected by it. It's just like, well, these stairs go here. Now this room, you're right. Now this room is triangular because that's all the room that we have left. And good luck in trying to lay out the furniture on there, because you don't have one square wall in there for you to put a desk against.
Yeah. Well, then the opposite is true too. There's lots of times when we design to function as a priority over presentation, right? Because budgets are limited, and it's much more important that the building works correctly rather than aesthetically looks amazing. And so if you are limited in budget with material types or designed by maintenance, right, everything has to be CMU.
Oh my god,
right?
That's a different story.
Then you make it work. Then you make it work, and you make it work really well in function, so that the people who have to live in that environment can get their work done and enjoy working there or living there or whatever.
So with those, I always looked at the opportunities too, because I know, you know this as well as I do, K through 12, it is the bulletproof building.
Right.
It's tried to make it
quite literally,
quite literally, but you're making exposed CMU walls.
Yeah.
That's the interior finish of your classrooms. And is it pretty? Hell no. Is it functional?
Is it a conducive
Sure.
learning environment for the future of our country?
Exactly. But then what you try to do is you try to, you try to basically find those moments where you can take the very banal kind of CMU block and try to do something fun with it, or try to do something that is inventive enough where that people can feed off of its creativity and stuff, because it's got to meet that zero overage budget, got to be maintenance free, as you're saying. Oh my god, when you said designed by maintenance, it just made me kind of want to
gives you the twitches,
ball and cry. Exactly.
I like to imagine the beautiful buildings we see reported on Arc Daily and such, like Apple's new campus or the Google campus that Bjarke Ingels and Thomas Heatherwick were designing, and I like to think of them made out of CMU. And
oh yeah.
think like, okay, that should be a website. That should be a website where somebody swaps out these beautiful materials with CMU and like vertical metal panel or something.
Standing seam metal roof.
Yeah,
and,
there you go.
Things like that. Yeah.
That's like that's my version of McMansions from Hell.
Don't see any roof-to-roof crossover ladders on those.
Yeah. Those have been photoshopped out. We talked about that on one of our previous episodes.
Yeah.
So guys, when I want to throw in one thing here, at least something how, at least in recent times, the types of projects I've been working on, which is a little different from what you guys are doing. And mostly I've been doing affordable rehabs. So taking existing multifamily buildings that are, at least the several that I've been doing so far, have been all 40 to 60 years old, and we're just rehabbing them. But we are refreshing on one or two of them the elevations. And so we're stripping down everything on the outside, and in some cases even on the inside, chipboard and everything, and stripping them down to the stud and kind of rebuilding them back up and remodeling them. And so using Google has actually been quite helpful for us, and also SketchUp as a design tool, because we're looking for some inspiration on what we could do with an existing building. And a lot of these are like rectangular boxes. I mean, literally just boxes, right? And so we're trying to, one of these buildings I'm working on right now is very long. It's probably, I don't even know how long it is. Don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but hundreds of feet long and just flat and straight. And so we did actually use Google to first look at some of the existing, because this is a new client for me. So I'm not as familiar, not familiar with the type of remodels or newer, because they also develop new affordable buildings as well for people. And so we used Google when we started to kind of look at what they've done. And so the tools available to us were fantastic, because it allowed us, okay, we know these are their projects. So we went to like Google Maps and did street views and looked at some of what have they done that we could educate, me and my team could educate ourselves on what do they like, what do they don't like, what have they done before, what are they comfortable doing, knowing the types of materials they like to use on their rehabs, things that can be affordable. They're not going to do really expensive things, but they will spend a little money depending on the project at the entries in certain areas, community rooms and stuff like
Sure.
that. So we used Google to really educate ourselves. So it was a fantastic tool for us to use. And then we did use SketchUp because we were able to model the existing buildings and then design over the top of those. And we were able to, because we have these long straight buildings, use some push and pull and the tools available in SketchUp to really kind of design. And I mean, we literally designed with SketchUp. I wouldn't say by SketchUp, but we used the tools available to us to, in a way that I think was completely different than old school. We're going to, let's look at this on an elevation. Here's our existing flat elevation, with the existing windows and things. And then I think we were able to much more do something, I think, that was better than if we were just looking at it flat, because we could understand, okay, well, if we build this out a little bit here and create some things, and it allowed us to do things that I think you couldn't do as easily or understand as well when you were just looking at a flat elevation, if you were just designing something over the top. So it also allowed it to be a much more collaborative, collaborative design experience, really, because my coworker and I were working together on it, and she was kind of driving the SketchUp, and we were working back and forth like, hey, let's try this or let's try that. And so instead of one person sitting there just sketching over an elevation and then handing it off to somebody to say, okay, here, either A, model this or CAD it up, right? So we can see it in the CAD or something. So I'm approaching it maybe a little differently than you guys are, or that the way I totally get what you're saying, Cormac, because you do see that people just kind of blatantly copying stuff. But for us, or at least me currently, the tools or designing with Google services have been really helpful, and I think enhance the types of work that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, but what you're doing though is you're actually using the tools the way they're intended.
Okay.
You're looking for inspiration, and you're using the SketchUp as a visualization of that interpretation. And it's not a, hey, look, here's a 200 linear foot long flat building that they push and pulled the face of it. Let me pull that exact image out and put it over the top of my 200 linear foot building and say, here it is, I'm done.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Is this good? No, and that's what I'm referring to is seriously the cut and paste design kind of aspect of Google. Yeah. Not the let me look for inspiration.
Google's just an example. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Evan, you named off a bunch of them, Pinterest and all these other ones. Magazines, books.
Just walking around, shooting your own
photos. Should we explain what those are?
Yeah,
exactly.
But you're talking about an ideology. I mean, it's a much bigger thing than just one project here or there. You're talking about, are people doing the work as designers?
Yes.
To design a building, or are they taking shortcuts because of X, Y, and Z?
That's exactly.
And I'm sure it's a little bit of both, but I think what you're really seeing is a withdrawal from the really doing the work.
Because, I mean, what is one of the things that we've talked about on the podcast, we talk about in the profession? It's getting out there and experiencing architecture. So getting out there and experiencing the architecture, whether it's through Google, whether it's through Pinterest, whether it's through, walking around, taking your own pictures or whatever, that's not the point of the conversation, because that's inspiration. That's drawing from your surroundings. That's looking at what other people are doing, both good and bad, and figuring out what to do and what not to do.
Having an awareness,
That's totally the awareness. But I think Evan, you actually just touched on the exact point that I'm getting at here is, are people willing to or looking for the shortcuts of doing the work? Mm-hmm. And, we started talking about the excuses about why we maybe should or shouldn't do that, or kind of some of the prompts of why we would do something like that. But I don't think that necessarily makes it any better or worse or anything. Sure, we have constraints on a project. Sure, we have some things. But, I mean, hell, just don't copy and paste. Don't just blatantly rip something off. I mean, we've heard stories about, like, the one story coming out of, I think it was early on, of the Freedom Tower, where you had this one kid who was doing his thesis and did this design of a tower, and I believe it might have even been the replacement for the Twin Tower. I'm not sure exactly what his thesis was, but sure enough, when a designer that was on the design team for the Freedom Tower was sitting on this kid's jury, sure enough, later on, the design of the Freedom Tower sure in the hell looked a lot like, or almost exactly like, the kid's jury. So, I mean, it's a very high profile case of not wanting to put in the work. I don't think that was a draw of inspiration. That was a draw of ripoff. And it just, I guess that's in the bigger picture.
Have you seen that article? I think I posted it on Twitter, but it was like all of the copycat buildings in China.
Oh yeah.
There's the mini, I forget what it's called now. I mean, there's like there's a Zaha Hadid example. There's a mini Pompidou Center. There's a isn't there like a town? It's so
isn't
funny.
there like a town that has like
it's
this
like miniature
collection
golf.
of it's like a collection of Western buildings that they just kind of like exactly. It's a putt golf.
Yes.
But I mean but I guess that even harkens back to the conversation that we were having about sameness, is like what the laziness of the designers are doing is creating basically the same thing everywhere.
It's kit of parts even, right? It's another shortcuts. It's a I've got this thing that I've done before. Neil said it earlier, and we're going to do it again because we know it works. And I honestly think that this mentality comes solely out of, I will take the first idea, and that is the idea. Because A, that's all I'm good at. B, that's all I have time for. C, enter your own excuse. but I see it all time and time again. It's a reuse of the same thing because we've done it before. We know it works, and I'm out of new ideas. Sounds harsh.
Ooh, see that sounds harsh, but that almost can lead into a completely different topic and subject of Starkitects.
I'm curious, guys. Do you think this is a new phenomenon because of something like Google, or has this been happening for decades or years?
No, I don't think this is
millennia, not millennial.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't think it's new at all. That's what I was saying. I've seen it when I was interning. I saw it, but it was Arc Record instead of Arc Daily.
Or Neil, think about when you were practicing and everything was like chiseled out of stone. I mean,
what do you mean when I was practicing?
When you started practicing.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, did I retire recently that I'm not aware?
He made
of?
all the money and then he retired. Yeah,
exactly. There you go. Makes the money.
I just put the link to that article into our show notes. So it's called the kookiest Chinese copies from Pompadont to Rongshamp.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I found another one too. I think I'll include as well.
There was a sense of inventiveness, even with, I guess, the copies or the homages and things like that. And again,
that's a nice way to say it.
There is nothing wrong with drawing inspiration and this collage kind of like aspect of design work. But again, you're at least, I think when you're drawing inspiration, at least in my mind, maybe this is my rationalization of this, but I think you're at least putting in the effort of like, okay, I've got all of these things that have just been inundating my senses, and I really like this, I really like that, this is just fantastic here. And I think this would really work for this project, but now it's my job as the designer of this project to take all of those influences and distill it to what this project would need. Mm-hmm. If this project needs a Ronchamp type thing, well, clearly I'm not going to just repeat Ronchamp, because this is now a different building in a different location and it's got different context. Now I need to make a Ronchamp-esque fit this particular space and program and area. That's just drawing inspiration from Ronchamp. That's not ripping Ronchamp off.
No, there's so many levels of that too. I mean, it goes way beyond the surface of what the facade looks like. It's grids, right? It's layouts. It's
right.
It's size and ratios of spaces. It's so many things that can be taken from and I mean, architecture is much bigger than a project. We've done things. We have gotten to this point by constantly evolving how buildings work and look. And so it would be foolish to say that you can ignore all of that,
right,
and have a singular idea that is completely new. There's just no way to do it. So it shouldn't.
Absolutely.
The conversation should not just be about the image at that point, but that is an easy one to pick on.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that anybody who's listening to this doesn't think that I'm just moaning about bad design, good design, whatever.
No, because
processes and things like that, because it's not it.
Because we see copies of ideas in plans too, right? And we see copies of ideas in all kinds of aspects of what we do. So yeah,
and it's not the copying per se of, as Neil, you were talking about, you were looking at all of these different things in Google for inspiration, but you used the key word for inspiration, and that's when copying is okay. That's when I'm really God, I just sounded like a I was hypocritical to my own statements here. Jesus Christ. Yeah, you get where I'm going here, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think, well, and I think Evan mentioned it earlier okay, so if I'll throw myself under the old man bus here. When I first started practicing, or back a few years back, the idea of, I think Evan, you mentioned it, record, or I mean, everybody would always have their stacks and stacks of their magazines, and they would have everything tabbed and dog-eared and such, of things that they liked, and I don't know. In my case, we would always keep the record houses issues because I've done mostly residential work in my career. So, to us, that was what we really paid attention to is the
That's
record
the gold
houses,
standard
right? The
right
gold
there.
standard, exactly. So that was what was most important for us. But ironically enough, it's rare that you could ever do any of that in most of the residential work that I've done because it just doesn't fit the style or the clientele that I've mostly dealt with in my career. But it is inspirational and it's fun to look at and it's fun to read. I guess.
Well, I think what's interesting about that kind of thing, it's you focus in on smaller parts. You look at how materials were used.
Yeah.
You look at how details were created. You look at how proportion works on a facade.
Right.
You look at all of these kinds of things as inspirational as well. And I think that's one of the neat things as a designer to go and peruse this stuff is, I want to see how people who are really freaking good at their jobs worked out an idea. So when you do have a really long, flat, rectangular building, what can you do with that? Like what else is out there that can just start me down a path of figuring out this problem? Because a lot of people have figured it out really well. And so I think that's when this kind of idea of flipping through this stuff really does work to our advantage.
Well, it's part of. I was gonna say like part of. I'll say toolbox, right? But it's part of your mental toolbox. It's like, what have I seen before that I can maybe mold and shape and do something with to solve this problem that I have, right?
And that's inspiration, not copy.
I think that, and something Cormac brought up earlier too, and this is a little bit of to our detriment, is that we tend to not be as aware of our surroundings when we're out now because we're dealing with kids or we've got a phone in our face or we're in a rush or whatever. And we don't experience our surroundings as much as we used to or ever did, or I don't know what the right way to say that is, but we tend to put what's on our screen as the way we do that instead of getting out and experiencing architecture or making a point to go visit buildings, just to visit buildings and experience them. Because buildings, most of the time, and there's a difference between architecture and buildings. I think a lot of people, buildings are background, right, to our experiences. Yeah. But I think what makes it architecture is that when a building can be an experience, and we have to make a point to go out and do that on purpose. And so we can't just draw from what we see on the screen because that is just a two-dimensional image, or maybe it's 3D if you're talking about some online tour or a point cloud capture or something like that. But where maybe you can start to experience it a little bit, but it's nothing like going there in real life and walking through it and seeing how the light and the shadow affect you and the real things about how architecture is experienced and how it can make somebody's day better or worse just based on the design. And that kind of sucks, right? Like we just don't get out as much. I mean, there's so many, especially young people in our offices today who don't get CA experience because you're not allowed to go out on the job site. And that's in podcasting air quotes,
Yeah.
Like we don't send you out. You don't get to go out. We don't do the field trips. We don't do all that stuff that we did when we were in school that I think is super important to developing our eyes and our sensibilities. So that's just kind of a lamenting of the truth of working in cubes. Right?
Yeah.
One of the things our firm does is at least annually or or maybe even quarterly, we do tours. And
that's cool.
At least quarterly, if we're doing them quarterly, they're typically local. So we'll get out and, we're here in the Bay Area. So within an hour's drive, we can be, just about anywhere in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we can see big high-rise buildings in San Francisco or smaller other types of buildings for residential, multifamily type stuff and single family, all the types of work. And in any commercial buildings, we just recently completed, in fact, it's opening this weekend, an aquatic center that's just in the town next door to us. So, we can see and experience all of these different things. And so or at least from a company standpoint, we do encourage younger staff to get out and go see those. In fact, we had a tour of the aquatic center, I think about 2 weeks ago, that we were able to go to. I unfortunately missed it because I was out of town, but it's just, we do try and push that idea, and the company does do a very nice thing. We get to venture down to Southern California once a year, typically when times are good, and tour and look at other projects. It's similar types of projects that we're doing. This year, I was able to go, and if you're following me on Instagram, you probably got flooded with tons of photos from LA over that weekend. But we were able to experience all of the different larger multifamily type buildings, and it was very much an educational process because we were able to talk to the people that are selling the units, what's working, what's not working, how did they set up the different aspects of the buildings to work in a certain way. And it was just a great way to experience. And of course, everybody's walking around going, oh, how did they detail that? Or, oh, look at how that kind of went together in a crappy way. That's maybe not the way to do it. So
yeah, don't do.
Yeah, don't do that, right?
I think it's really cool that your firm invests in you guys in kind of the mind share of your studio that way. That's a really forward thinking or just important thing to do.
Yeah, it is an important thing to do, and very much educational. I think it would help more the younger staff if they were able to go on the longer field trips. Sometimes they don't always take all the younger staff, but just for cost reasons, I guess. But it's just important, and I would say this for anybody. If you're in a metropolitan area or near one, get out those weekends and take a tour of those buildings. Go look at the model homes or the model units in multifamily, or if you're doing schools, go experience those schools, right?
This is what we all do when we go to like AIA conventions, right? So if your firm doesn't do this or you can't get out, like that's a great excuse, because when the times that we've been to the conventions, we end up walking around just kind of looking at stuff. I mean, remember going to the Barnes Foundation in Philly?
Yeah.
It was just one of those experiences where I wouldn't get to do that normally. And I've got 4 kids. I'm not getting out jaunting around Los Angeles every weekend to look at architecture. Although
No, you're going to climb a rock.
No, that's true. I want to get out into nature instead. But I think that's like I said, it's an investment into your company that your company is making. And I think that's truly cool. And I'm going to go back and suggest that our studio does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it's a very good thing, because, I mean, you were talking about, that you were out there and you were looking at all of these different types of buildings that you guys do, that you guys specialize in. And you were looking at the good things, the bad things, details that you would do, wouldn't do. But that's helpful to you because it offers you growth in your own market and your own expertise, and just to kind of see what other people are doing.
Yeah, having that awareness.
Exactly. Having that awareness of what else is out there.
And for real, because you know that the photos of those projects are, 200 foot away and they look gorgeous, right, or this or that. But then when you go there in person, you get to scoff at the ugly details because you know that they happen on your projects too. So it's okay.
How do they deal with the mechanical stuff?
How do the fire sprinklers get worked into the canopies and all this stuff that's just normal working stuff that you don't always just get to see for real. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Right. Because we know that when we look at buildings in magazines, they've photoshopped all the
air handling
units in the screen. Exactly.
There's no more air handlers on that building.
Yeah, you definitely get to see all the ugly details or things that didn't quite work out. But yeah, so I mean, it's easy to do stuff like this. I mean, you can even organize your own studio or your friends.
You have to be intentional though about it.
You do, and
or you have to at least see that there's a value in it, because some people I'm sure don't.
Yeah,
we do what we do. We got to do it faster. We don't have time for that. And as it goes, we keep hearing that.
In our case, it takes place over on the Southern California trip. It takes place over on a weekend. So I mean, you're spending your own time to do that, and it's your weekend, but it's part of the education, right? And so it's a good thing to do.
Well, they don't have to pay you salaried people overtime, so that's why your younger staff isn't going.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's above my pay grade there. So, but still, I mean, in talking about what we have been discussing here on this episode, I think it's important that having that, expanding your toolbox the best you can, allows you to take what you do see on the Google or in utilizing tools like SketchUp or Revit or whatever BIM application of your choice. It allows you to then use those tools to design. And as Cormac mentioned earlier, use what you're seeing as inspiration and not copy paste, right?
Well, the more you can elevate your awareness, your experience, your knowledge, and the deeper you can go, I think it is going to show up in the work, which is kind of getting back to that doing the work aspect of it and coming up with original thoughts and original ideas. There's a really great YouTube video that keeps getting taken down and somebody else puts it up, but it's probably from the 80s. It's a lecture that John Cleese gave at like a TV Arts and Sciences, and if you just search for John Cleese video on creativity, he talks about doing that hard creative work by collaborating and then going off onto your own. And he talks about it in terms of, it's kind of like Paul Graham's letter on the internet about maker's time, creator's time versus manager's time. And he talks about doing real creative, original thought kind of work, not just accepting the first idea that comes to you, but iterating on it, breaking it, trying again. And that, I think, is what we really need to fight hard to do. And if you want to really get expertise and mastery in coming up with authentic work, you have to put in the time to go out and do this stuff. It's more than, you have to get deeper than just scratching the surface of flipping through images on the screen. You have to experience things for yourself. You have to interview people. What are their experiences in these types of spaces? What works for them? And why does it work? I mean, there's so many times when we judge the book by its cover, even going to these places and just looking at them, and they can affect us in a certain way, but we don't even go deep enough to ask why it affects us that way. Is it the materials? Is it the daylight? What is it? What is it that makes it a great space or a bad space? I mean, these are all the questions that should be coming to us kind of naturally, but because we are either distracted or in a hurry or whatever the reasons are, we tend to just go through things instead of sit and stir and kind of experience them. And so if you want to do yourself a service of, in the positive, you've got to go intentionally do that stuff. And that's what I mean when I say we have to be intentional about this. We've got to go and want to get better at it instead of just always feeling like there's that imposter syndrome kind of lurking over our shoulders, and we're going to get found out because we copied and pasted something from some other project.
Yep.
It happens, right? It happens all the time. The first step in admitting you have the problem.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I'm thinking that is a mic drop there, because I don't know if I can. That was great. That was the perfect summation of exactly everything that I was thinking.
Well, that's our call to action on this episode: is get out and experience architecture. I know we've talked about this many times. I'm sure. I think we even have an episode called Experience Architecture. But that's what it's about, so that you can create those experiences for your clients on your projects.
Exactly.
All right, Neil, wrap us up.
All right. Well, let's take us out. Well, before we go, we'd like to thank our episode sponsor, Arcat. Check out all the features they offer over at arcat.com. And make sure to visit our website, archispeakpodcast.com, for links to our catalog of episodes, and sign up for our newsletter, which will include links to everything we mentioned in the episode, including those really funny Chinese copies.
Those are awesome.
They are pretty awesome.
Wrong, Sean.
Pretty spectacular that they actually did them. They look kind of small, though.
They're like, that's why we still like putt golf.
That's true. All right. So between episodes, join the conversation on the Archispeak podcast Facebook page and on Twitter. Links to everything can be found at archispeakpodcast.com. And want to help the show? Then make sure to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts. And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
See ya.
baby, you can start now, or you can hang your head in despair. The only road will take you there. They may tell you that you'll never recover, baby. I've learned one thing or another about you. It's the only road to get you there. And if they don't know how to treat a lady, baby, you can teach them how to act. They could use a little bit of discipline and a hand on the backside, baby. Let's pretend we're doing the right thing. And while we're at it, have the opposite day. Some like to hug, some leave a bruise, some need to know I'm ready for you. On once again, hey, on. I see through us, it escapes on, grates on the real world. It manufactures glory for the villainous fractures. Bulldoze and through like a tractor, a cracked actor, a mother of pearl. And if they don't know how to hold a woman, maybe you can put them back in their place. They could use a little bit of discipline and a hand across their face. Baby, let's pretend we're doing the right thing. And while we're at it, have the opposite day. Some like to hug, some leave a bruise, and stop mixed up. I'm ready for you. Let's pretend we're doing the right thing. And while we're at it, have the opposite day. Some like to hug, some leave a bruise, some mixed up.